the highlight investments on this one is we've had the fortune of discovering a pretty massive and dramatic discovery at Treaty Creek. It's currently on its fourth mineral resource estimate. Forward-looking statements. Yep, so here we are picking up the story with the Treaty Creek discovery. That was 25 million ounces of gold, 150 million ounces of silver, and 3 billion pounds of copper directly north of the KSM trend. So very dramatic, no doubt about it. Best real estate you can possibly hope for. I think also the better takeaway of all this is the fact that we have an enormous 100% owned land package in the fact of a large 17,000 hectare swath or cross section. I'll show you that in a minute. But more importantly, we've assembled a team that has been involved with all these discoveries. So really important to have the same guys that know what they're doing, that have a template for your discovery, that use the same parameters for essentially our look at how these trends all form. So when you look at trends, you look them geopolitical safe arenas. No sense in doing this in some of the Africas or the stands. We want to come back to Canada. I spent my life 19 years with Coeur d'Alene and Ross Beatty chasing some of the biggest silver deposits on the planet. So happy to come back home to this one. But location, 45 kilometers from Stewart, water year round. Great, like I said, political structure. NDP government, I know, but they are trying to put mines in production. Power, we're right beside the northwest transmission line. Air access, north and south, and also export facilities, which I'll get to right here. This is the town of Stewart, for anybody who's never been there. And just to prove to you that this is very much a orientated, core-orientated, or exploration-orientated town, all of this is infrastructure for drilling and exploration. So they're heavily vested. More importantly, when you locate the infrastructure looking south down the Portland Canal, what you see is things like big infrastructure, World Seaport, Teltan Development Corporation has come in with that and entered into agreements with that. Here's the old Esso concentrate building. That handled some of the concentrate from Escape. So a lot of infrastructure that just to the south of us. So this is really a plug and play district. We're not reinventing anything. So this is definitely a mining community. But what I want to bring your attention to is this crystalline complex in the center. And this will be a recurring theme here. So remember this for the exam afterwards. So every periodicity here, every 2.5 kilometers, there seems to be a deposit forming. I took this away when I saw Yanacocha in Peru. I saw this on some of the deposits in Red Lake. Very good, frequent, predictable periodicity. Same thing with the deposits to the south of the high grade core here. So what you have here is gold, copper in the crystalline belt, and here we have a beautiful silver gold high grade belt on both sides. So it's one of the few projects I can think of that enjoys the benefit of having both generational bulk tonnage, massive size targets, and more importantly, high grade that almost any company that's at this conference can actually chunk into. So when you see what we have in the center, it's actually kind of unique that you've got a VMS at the top of the sequence on this one. And we'll just do this real quick. These are actually pull aparts, right? There's one that's missing down here. This is a VMS. That's Grand Duke, right? In the tertiary, again, another pull apart. Everything else in between that sandwich is a compression event. So everything else in here is absolutely being squeezed. So intrusive crystalline belt and all deposits that relate to it. So we have this entire cross section. So this is a spin out from the Treaty Creek story. We had Teuton Gold, had Treaty Creek, or does still have Treaty Creek. We were working on it, but we knew we weren't going to get value for the stuff to the south, even though we're amassing massive numbers and up to 1 billion tons of material that I think will be a generational mine. To the south, we decided to make a new company. So the mother of all deposits, the Goldstorm deposit, discovered at Treaty Creek, gave birth to the daughter company, Goldstorm Metals Corp. So that was the takeoff, the spin-off of what we did. So when you look at it in detail, what we've got going forward is a bunch of targets we've developed that no one really looked at or understood the anatomy of this crystalline belt or of the high-grade silver. So a lot of stuff came out of this. We are now currently looking as a hotspot in the center of the Crown Claim, the Orion Spine. And moreover, a new discovery here, Delta West. That was a chance find, but I just happened to walk over the ground grabbing a dozen samples that came in. Let's look at these more closely. So this is the land package. Some of the historical values in the area were quite impressive. So what we did is we concentrated on all our efforts on the Orion Spine, because what we're after is a generational product of finding a big deposit like we've just done at Treaty Creek. So this is a repeat. Call it Treaty 2.0 or Tudor Reloaded, whatever. But this is like history repeating itself. When we were at Bruce Jack, I mean, we discovered that in 2009. I gave it the name Valley of the Kings in 2010. Similar thing happened to us at Treaty. Discovered the big deposit. Before that, I was doing snowfields for Silver Standard. But when I came back to Treaty Creek, we find this really large deposit. Within it, we're finding a bunch of high grade. That's important. Why? It's one of the few projects that the high grade still intact is at Treaty that we discovered. So knowing that template, we come along surface and we discover this. All of this is coincident anomalies. Gold, silver in the center, copper in the red, and there's the geology. This geology we don't believe is Stu Heaney. We think it's younger. We think it's upper Hazelton. Closer look at it, when you look at with the evidence of lineaments, this is the lineation that you're coming through that Brian's describing in his project. Well, a similar thing on strike, right? You're seeing the similar occurrence on fracture control. Why? Well, let's have a look here. This is the chargeability in an IP. It's taken us 2 years as a small company to get to the stage because we spent our time basically drilling off a high-grade component to the southwest of us at the Electrum project. All the time we are prepping this, doing geochemistry, finding out where the center of mass is, because it's amazing how you can hide 2 billion tons in plain sight like Snowfields was. I was shocked to see that the center of mass of Snowfields was right there in front of us under the basically heather. So this is what the resultant was after our chargeability. It confirmed everything that we were thinking. So here we have basically coincident copper gold anomalies, something that you don't see at KSM, something you don't necessarily see on surface at Treaty. The reason you don't see them at KSM, well, they've been eroded. The reason why you don't see them at Treaty is because they're still underground. They haven't apexed. Here, the system is so strong that we believe that the intrusive related material has blown up right through the fracture pattern. So our goal now is to get down to see what the source is of this massive anomaly. So when you go back historically, and I used to pride myself in getting some pretty high-grade samples. Well, here was one in here that has 14 kilograms silver that we picked up. I can't remember the year. I guess it was in the 2000s. That was the Delta side of things. Looking to Delta West, as mentioned before, some pretty impressive numbers came out of that on a one-day pass. Why? Well, the guys doing it, they were Neil Armstrong, first man on the moon, because all of this was all snow cover. All this is snow cover. Here's a recessional marine right here. There it is. Just receded back. Wasn't exposed before. So virgin ground. Anybody that walks through Ontario, the Kootenays, other jurisdictions, a lot of people have been there. The high zone, we haven't even been there. The Fairweather, sure, Fairweather. Been there, done that, got some really great numbers. Again, high-grade, narrow peripheral on that eastern high-grade sector, but not keeping our eye off the prize is always in line with Orion Spine going after it. So what do? While we're doing the geochem, the geophysics, we're quietly going about drilling at Electrum. This is the extension of the Blueberry Zone, north of Bradley Rourke and Thomas Mumford's project at Scotty. So we know that we've got something there, but I'm going to tell you, if you give me 200 drill holes, I'll find a monster called Treaty Creek with the 200 drill holes at $2 an ounce. Do the same on the veins. It's going to take you maybe 400 to 600 holes, and you're going to come up with 1.5 to 2 million ounces, right? There's some potential for some nice targets on this still, but one of the takeaways was the grade is pretty extreme. So when you get into these things, There's one for you. Let me just take this off so I can zoom this in. So under no circumstances, that's 54 kilos. 54.77 kilos on this black acanthite. So when you see this black material, it looks like licorice. It's not. Silver sulfide. Massive. On surface with 3 ounces of gold. Impressive. In plain sight. Everybody stepped over it. Why? They're after Electrum at the time. Visible Electrum. So this kind of wraps up my session here, but I'm going to tell you, as history repeating myself for what I've done at Bruce Jack, repeating the history at Treaty, I think that pendulum swings to the south. So for a ground entry level investment at a 27 million market cap, sitting there at 25, 26, 28 cents, we think it's a great opportunity to come in. So we're going to go after this with about a 3,000 meter drill program, initial drill program on the Orion spine. These other targets, we'll hit it too. We will, but the target is, let's find the generational first, and then we'll go after this next. But thank you for your time. Come by and see me, because no way I can pack this into 10 minutes. I've done the best I can. I've just hit the hot spots. Thanks, everybody.